Hello, it's me, Jeffrey, aka Recollect, and today I'm here on my second channel to show you a really cool conversation I had with the lead developer behind two of the mobile Call of Duty games, that being Call of Duty Heroes and Call of Duty Siege. Now, before we get into that, I need to set up why I was talking to him in the first place. If you've been a fan of the main channel for a while, you know that back in 2020, I made a video talking about beating all 40 COD campaigns on Veteran. At the time, there was 40, but I actually only beat 37 of them, with the 3 remaining ones being the mobile games that currently were offline. Believe it or not, those 3 games did have campaigns. They just were not playable, even when emulated. But the fact that I titled the video, I beat those games and I didn't actually beat them, has always kind of bothered me. So I figured a cool idea for a video would be resurrecting playable versions of those mobile games to access the campaigns, archive their footage, because there really isn't much of it on YouTube at all. I doubt there's much of an audience for niche COD campaign mobile footage like that, but I kind of really wanted to do it. It was going to be a passion project of mine, so I started looking into it, and I assumed it wasn't possible, but I saw a couple people online attempt resurrecting an old mobile game with no successful results, so I figured, man, let me try reaching out to the people responsible for the game. Maybe they can provide me an offline version. So when you look into it, the developer behind Heroes and Siege is the same. It's Face Roll Games. They're pretty obscure online now. I couldn't tell if they're still a functioning company, but then on their website I saw all their employees listed with the CEO. His name was Vincent, so I started looking online trying to potentially contact him, and maybe he could get me info on how to do it, or he could do it. I think you get the idea. I wanted to play these games, wanted to put the footage out there, but I was gonna need help. Now, contacting this guy was not easy. I spent a solid week trying different routes and going down different rabbit holes of contacting him. I found this similar username that he uses for a lot of things, and I eventually found him on LinkedIn, Reddit, Facebook, YouTube, Steam. I tried out some old emails that I found. I checked some old website accounts, some old forum websites. Heck, I was even reaching out to who I thought was family members of him just to see if I could communicate with this guy. I got to the point where I was looking up his name for an obituary. Maybe he died, I don't know, but after days and days of searching, I finally got lucky when I found his username on eBay, and he had active listings, which signified to me that not only was he alive, but he's active on this account. So I reached out to him, instantly got a response. I tried to not weird him out with, how long I've been searching for him, but he was totally cool. He understood what I was trying to do, and he quickly was willing to meet for a little Zoom meeting. So the guy's full name is Vincent Nguyen, and I really want to thank him for setting aside the time to talk and discussing all things Call of Duty. Just so you know, this conversation took place at the end of 2022, and I'm just now getting it out, but I think it's really interesting. It's not so much an interview, it's just we're talking all things Call of Duty. The mobile games, Call of Duty Online, Call of Duty Global Operations, it's all over the place. I think it's really interesting. I hope you do too, but without further ado, here is my conversation with Vincent Nguyen, the lead developer of Call of Duty Heroes and Siege. Yeah, so if you wouldn't mind, if you could introduce yourself, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. I guess you got my name, Vince, and I've been in the game industry for like over 10 years now. Started off at a mobile game company, a small one called Hands On Mobile, and then got laid off, and I had a clock shop for a while in Redwood City in the Bay Area. I did that for a year, and then I was like, shit, this is not my thing. So, because I come from a line of clockmakers. So my grandfather was a clockmaker, my dad's a clockmaker, and I gave a shot at that. I learned from my dad, but I was like, damn, every single day I was working, I was just thinking I gotta make games. I can't just fix clocks and watches and all that stuff. So I left, and then I worked in Gameloft in New York for a couple of years, and then came back to the Bay Area in California and continued my stint as a game developer for Tencent, who owns everything these days.
Sure.
and worked for them for a couple years. And then I met my core team that eventually became Face Roll Games through Tencent. So they sent me to Shanghai to work with a team when I was at Tencent, and I became really good team members and friends with the team members there. And when I decided to branch out, I sniped the whole team. So just kind of poached them all. And that's when we went off and developed our first game, which is Galaxy Factions. So Galaxy Factions became the basis for Call of Duty Heroes. So when we initially did Galaxy Factions, it was like a 3D Clash of Clans style mobile game. And we tried that out, as an original IP, but we just didn't have the marketing dollars. And we tried it out, we released it, and it didn't do so good. It was a good quality game, but I just didn't do so well. Marketing dollars weren't pumped into the project, so we just didn't get the exposure that we wanted. So I had a buddy at Activision, and I was talking to him, and I was like, "Hey, dude, I'm thinking, I'm a big COD fan too, right? So I grew up on like Modern Warfare, and even like the older, the World War II games and all that. So I really love the COD franchise. So I was just talking to my buddy, and I was like, "Hey, dude, wouldn't it be cool if we did a COD game?" Clash of Clans style. And I was like, yeah, but Clash of Clans is doing so well. I was like, dude, but imagine it. If we could put like kill streaks and stuff like that, of the COD games into this kind of game, I think it'd be really cool. And so we created a demo based on Galaxy Factions. We reskinned a lot of the characters. We used like, modern day or more modern type of military units in there. And, we did a chopper gunner kill streak. And we added that into the game demo, and then we passed it on to the execs over there, and then they checked it out. Like, oh shit, okay, this is pretty cool. so that's how we got started. And so that's the story for Call of Duty Heroes. We basically co-developed it with Activision, and it was released, and we ran it for about 4 or 5 years before its eventual shutdown. As games go along, Activision, they're a good group to work with. But they have some like business practices that was questionable. I can't go into detail because you just gotta be careful about that kind of stuff.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
And you said it was co-developed, so was that like half you guys, half Activision on those two games?
I would say like maybe 99.9% us.
Gotcha.
I mean, Heroes was basically a reskin of our game. Was it Galaxy Factions? But we added a whole bunch of stuff, and that was also our idea as well too. So basically, their involvement was just like the marketing, which they barely did any of.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they basically let the COD name carry their user acquisition costs.
I have a quick question to interrupt. You mentioned
sure.
hands-on mobile.
Mm-hmm.
If my memory serves right, didn't they do one of the old like Java Call of Duty games? You know what I'm talking about?
I know they do like Java games and all that stuff, but I don't know if they did a COD one. They may have. They did a lot back then.
I could have it wrong, but I remember that name, and I know
the
logo is like a green cell phone held with a hand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. No, unfortunately, I didn't work on that one.
Okay.
Actually, of all things, I worked on a game called Trump Tycoon.
Okay.
Yeah. So back then, Trump was a big real estate mogul, and we were working on a cell phone game of basically you becoming a building tycoon, and you can have build several buildings, and you can outfit each floor. So it was kind of like a Sim City type of thing in a vertical tower setting. But anyways, yeah, that's a different topic. But I think you're right. I think Hands-On Mobile did do a 2D top-down style Call of Duty game.
Yeah, I want to say like Modern Warfare 2 maybe. I know they did one each for like the first for like 5 CODs. Like
I see. Mobile.
Modern Warfare through Black Ops. Yeah, they're really different, but I always kind of think they're charming.
I see.
Yeah.
I don't remember that one.
Also, I gotta ask, with your previous involvement in Tencent, I know this is a stretch because Tencent's such a giant company, but I know you're a COD fan, so did you ever see anything to do with COD Online before it got shut down?
So we worked with the team over in China that developed that game. Well, Activision was also obviously working with them as well too. I wasn't directly involved, but I was talking to some of the developers over in that group, and both sides, they have different perspectives on how the game should be developed. So it was an interesting partnership.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of my like. I love the oddball titles of Call of Duty. Like I'm a mega fanboy, so all these
Oh,
spin-offs
got it.
and all the weird ones, I like diving deep into those. So
Got it. Cool, cool, cool.
you gave a little background on Heroes. Do you have any information on Siege?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. So, with the success of Heroes, Activision wanted to do another game with us. And this is so in Call of Duty Heroes, I was heavily involved. I did the design documentations, I did, art direction, I did basically everything, from the creative perspective, also including like kill streaks, the writing in the game, all that stuff, coming up with the units, basically everything. When Call of Duty Siege was a secondary game. So it was based off of Clash Royale.
Mm.
Sorry, it's a tower. It's Supercell's other title during that time.
I know Clash Royale.
Okay, is that the one where like you send units to attack the other person's tower?
Yeah, I've never played it, but I think so. I know what the gameplay looks like for Siege. I roughly understand how the game works a bit.
Yeah. So it was like you basically create units and then you basically send it over to the opponent's tower, right? And eventually, like I guess your timing and the unit selection is all strategic. In that one, I had less involvement, so we pitched two different styles. One was like a more cartoony type of approach. That's why I don't know if there are images of Call of Duty Siege online at the moment, but it looks very cartoony compared to the traditional COD, a more realistic type of modern warfare type stuff.
Yeah, I've seen the art style online.
Yeah, so it's drastically different. So when we pitched that to them, they liked it. So we provided them two versions. We provided them a cartoony one, which is the one that eventually came out, and a more realistic one. I personally like the more realistic approach, but they wanted to go with something more cartoony. And I think back then, the Call of Duty space game, I forgot the name of it.
Infinite Warfare?
Yeah. Yes, Infinite Warfare came out, and so they wanted to go for something more futuristic. So we went down that route, and we did a couple of development builds with them, some demos, and they liked it. So we continued to build it, and everything was cool. According to like what they wanted to do, but I personally was like less involved during that time period because Tencent wanted to release Call of Duty Heroes over in China. So we were working on basically three projects. We were working on Call of Duty Heroes and then converting Call of Duty Heroes to the Chinese version. So there were just like some modifications to that. We changed like the UI, obviously language settings, and it changed like the server backend infrastructure to be more capable in China. And obviously Call of Duty Siege. So we were working on three projects back then. So Call of Duty Siege basically did a soft launch and it didn't do so hot. So I had my reservations about it too when working with the project manager over there. But he did some tests and he said like, hey, this game is getting positive feedback. But I'm playing it. I'm like, this is not so great, So unfortunately, like I guess like when we did the soft launch, it didn't get any good reception. So Activision basically killed the project during that time. So yeah, so it was short lived. I think it could have gone better, but it's all like
Okay. Is it true that the soft launch was only in Australia? I keep reading that online.
Yeah. So basically, what we do is we do like like tier 2 or tier 3 soft launches. It's usually in like English speaking countries where the culture is kind of similar. The main reasons user acquisition costs would be lower over in Australia. Usually, it'd be like the Philippines first, but Activision wanted us to do a soft launch in Australia since it was more closer in culture to the US or the Western audience. So we did that, and that's where we got not so great feedback. Yeah.
Thanks for all that info. That's really interesting. Actually, I gotta think Siege is like technically, in my opinion, the most obscure Call of Duty ever. Just like no one knows information on it, and that's what intrigues me about it. But
yeah, no, I can see why.
Yeah, Heroes launched in 2014, shut down 2018, and Siege was only around for like less than a year, I think. Correct?
Yeah, it's only a couple months. Yeah, it was after a couple months of like I think maybe 2-3 months of like soft launch. data, yeah, they just like, yeah, this isn't working out. So, they killed the project, which I mean, I kind of understand.
I got a couple more questions. Information on Face Roll Games, like a little bit of a history, like when they started, are they still around?
Unfortunately, like Facebook Games is no longer existing. All the team members basically. Okay, so one of the reasons why we shut down is, we worked on a couple other games afterwards. We were working on a top-down battle royale style game, similar in the vein of like, what is it? It's a top-down battle royale. I think Super Animal Royale or something like that. I don't remember the exact name for it, but it was a top-down battle royale. We were working on a game like that, and then Chinese New Year's 2018 came around. So people went home, just like over in China. So our office was shut down during that time. When they were sent home, COVID hit. So nobody was expecting COVID to hit during that time period. We just basically sent the team members home and, expecting to come back like a week later. But COVID shut down China during the whole time. So our contracts, since no one could go to the office and we had all of our information there, cloud computing, and all the data infrastructures and all that on the cloud wasn't a general practice. So no one had access to our databases. No one had access to the game code, nothing. Everyone was just stuck at home, in their hometowns. And it's remained like that for 4 months, at the very least. And so we couldn't work on our games and projects during that time. No one could go to the offices. And so we lost our contracts with, our publishers, our partners, and people who were contracting us to do, development work. So, obviously, like, we couldn't do anything about it. So we had to basically shut down. So because, the publishers weren't paying us. So, and the employees were still expecting a paycheck. I'm like, dude, come on, you guys aren't working. I can't do that. That's impossible. And obviously, getting like the PPE loans, right, that we had over here. Obviously it doesn't work in China, so I couldn't do that. So basically, decided to shed the office. The team members were easily able to get other jobs over in China, because of their experience and their capabilities and the high profile projects that they were working on. So it's all good for them, but not so great for FaceRoll.
Interesting. Oh, I was gonna ask, currently, are you still in the same mobile game field, or?
Yeah, I'm actually working with an esports team. So it's an esports team, and they are looking to expand into other days. And my background is very specific, so you can kind of put two and two together. But and yeah, that's where I am right now. We have some projects coming up, very cool ones, and I think people will be I think pretty surprised of what we're coming up with next. So.
Okay. I saw on your LinkedIn page you worked at 2K. Are you still there, or?
Oh, no, I'm not there anymore. So I left 2K for this other opportunity. And this other opportunity is not just games, it's also in basically creating like an entertainment IP. Like if you want to think about it, it's almost like creating a cyberpunk type of universe, or cyberpunk type of IP, where it starts off as a game and then it becomes like a animation, going to other things potentially as well too. So yeah, so we're trying to go down something that route.
Okay, interesting. I have some questions. These are a little technical with the actual games, but what I like to focus on as the last couple of years with Call of Duties is, and I make videos about them, is the campaigns, because it's my favorite mode. And
sure.
What I'm intrigued is Heroes and Siege both technically had a campaign mode, correct?
Yes, it was very light on story though. Yeah, it was more about, you're basically like a rogue group that's just gaining resources, but the storyline is very, very light. I actually don't remember too much about the storyline.
Yeah, I'd assume so. Was there like a set amount of missions? Was it like a start and end? Or was it like...
Yeah, in terms of like missions, they were just like additional stages that were tacked on. So basically, the quote unquote storyline is that, you're basically a commander of like, a small mercenary group, and you're just basically pumping the earth for resources, right? And as you're doing that, you're hiring, series, franchise, known characters onto your team and just using them, right? Eventually we added like zombie modes to it as well too, and so that like shoehorned the zombies concept into mobile game, into that environment. But the story wise, I mean, we just kind of, I guess you can say it's in the similar universe of the Call of Duty series, where you can just take various characters from the different games and just pop them in there. So in terms of storyline, we just kind of piggybacked off of like the storylines from the main games, but these characters can just be used one-off within our environment.
Yeah, that's what I always like about seeing the little bit of footage that exists in the screenshots, just seeing like Soap and Ghost and all these recognizable faces
exactly.
in something that doesn't look necessarily traditional Call of Duty.
Yeah.
I've got another question. Of course, you worked at Tencent, but you also worked on the Chinese version of Heroes. I worked on a video a while back on Call of Duty Online, and I thought it was interesting all the differences that has to be made for a game for China with like censorship and
absolutely,
like gore and what blood's allowed. Could you elaborate on any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So obviously, we had to change. They obviously don't allow blood, and with the CCP, you kind of have to like just bend to whatever they ask, right? Also, like some cultural differences as well too. Like zombies, we couldn't actually do zombies straight up like melting flesh and all this gory stuff. So we had to change them to like cybernetic organisms in a way. So that was like a really weird change. So zombies was like I guess over in China like defacing the dead is not looked too kindly upon. So they had to change all that. We had to remove all the blood and remove a lot of profanity, things like that. So most of it was mainly around like the undead and the gore. That was like the main changes for us. Let's see, for Call of Duty Online, they also made the girls or the girl characters much more sexy too. So they wanted to show like they wanted to show like a lot of skin, because that's what sells over there. And so Activision made those changes. Despite like in the US, there's some social changes on trying to cover up women and making them look a bit more battle appropriate, I guess you could say.
Interesting. Yeah, I got to play it because I wanted to similar with these mobile games, I wanted to document a game that was going to get shut down. Because I don't know if you know, COD Online shut down last year, September. I managed to get an account from someone on, got another one from my friend, and we recorded a bunch of gameplay for the zombies only. And it was just really interesting with like the blue blood. I could tell what they were doing with that because, it was allowed. And I was curious with the zombies, was there much like asset flipping? I don't know if that's the correct term, but it's just there was creatures in there that looked like they're probably taken from other games. That stuff ever happened?
Call of Duty Online over in China, that one. I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, they do use a lot of like references from other games for sure for the zombie characters, but I don't know if they're like actually like straight up ripping. I mean, Tencent's a really big company. Usually the smaller Chinese companies that do that, but no, I don't think Tencent would allow that, and I don't think Activision would allow that as well too. So I'm pretty sure they probably go through the rounds and make sure while the zombies are similar looking, I wouldn't say they downloaded a 3D model from another game and then just like reskinned it or something. So
okay, now the big question is, I know it's insanely unlikely, but is there any sort of way to resurrect playable versions of Heroes in Siege in any way?
I see. No, probably not. I mean, like the huge component of it is the back-end infrastructure, right? I know Activision has a code base for sure. For us to access that, probably zero chance. And Activision being the company that they are, they're not gonna just let anyone, even myself, I mean, so probably not. Yeah, but even then, even if we do have the code or do get it, the back-end engineers that hooked up all of that stuff, they're all gone as well too. So I'm pretty sure there's like, some comments and stuff in the code base on how to set it up, but I think it'll just take like a pretty big effort without the help of the original engineers.
That's what I assumed. I'm not tech savvy with that kind of stuff at all, and I just kept reading. It seems like some people have tried to do this with other games where they like reverse engineer it, and somehow if they know the source code are able to bring it back to life, but I've never seen it successfully done. And I assumed with the Activision connection there was going to be like potentially legal issues or whatever.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they would go after you for sure. Oh, actually, they'll go after me as well too. They're like, dude, how the hell did this like code base get out? I'll be like, hey, I don't know. Leave me alone.
Yeah,
I got the lawyers to do it for sure.
I was thinking about it, like looking into a talent hiring service, some sort of like Fiverr deal or something, someone that could do it for me. But I was then thinking about if I made a video about it, I can just see that getting, you know, issues. And I, of course, wouldn't share it, but...
Yeah. No, I understand.
So you think there's no person I could contact, no way, it's 100% impossible to resurrect an offline version of it?
I'm pretty sure that you can't.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's no way. I mean, it's Activision's code. They're not gonna let that get out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if it does get out somehow, they're gonna go after you legally, or you know, whoever's responsible for that. You know.
Okay, that's what I assumed, because you can download the APK files pretty easily online. And,
sure.
And I have them on an emulator on my computer, and of course they all say the same thing, you know, offline. But
of course.
Is there?
Yeah, you have to have the back end. You have to have it. The whole game is there's a lot of like connections that need to be done and verified, and data to be streamed that it just can't work without a server.
That's what I was thinking. Like, are the APKs just like portals to the actual game? Like they're just empty?
Oh no, I wouldn't say they're empty, but it requires the back ends to communicate with for it to, you know, do like account verifications, data updates, you know, security checks, things like that. Because, you know, with working with online game, these games are very susceptible to hacking. So the front end needs to work with the back end in concert for to reduce that, and also to, you know, to make sure players aren't cheating. Like, you know, they go into a game and then they, you know, adjust their stats. You could actually still do that, you know, but it still needs the back end to communicate with the front end.
Yeah, I assume that. I just needed to make sure, because there's so little info on these games, and there's so little info on that kind of thing, like resurrecting an old game, let alone a mobile game. So I just needed to like know that to sleep easy at night, because I thought it'd be a super interesting video, like bringing him back. Even though maybe, especially Siege, didn't have the hugest fan base because it wasn't around. But like I said, I like diving deep on the weirder...
obscure game.
Yeah. So I don't know if you know any information on this, but I'm probably not going to pursue it now that I know this information you told me today. But the third game that I'm interested in knowing more about...
Yeah, Global Offensive, right?
Global Operations.
Oh, Global Operations.
It might almost be more obscure than Siege. That one I find really interesting. Do you know any info about that, about the company?
So Electech is a big Chinese company. You know, they release like some pretty popular, very lucrative games over in China. And so they license, they COD license. And they made, you know, I don't know if you've seen like some of the footage for it, but it looks interesting to say the least.
It looks like your typical mobile game ad with Call of Duty faces. I'm really enamored by it. It's strange.
Yeah, for sure. No. When I heard Alextech was making a mobile game, I was like, interesting. I checked out their other games, and you know, it's the typical like Chinese moneymakers, and they basically made, you know, a COD game out of it. But yeah, it just didn't look interesting at all. So I don't know too much about the game, and I don't even know if it was. I'm pretty sure it was released. It was released. I did check it out. Like at least I saw the posting for it, but I never played the. I don't remember. Did I play the game or not? It was just a bad experience. So I just didn't go all the way through the gameplay or anything like that. But yeah, I know the company. I know their background. I know like they're very successful in China, and they, I guess, try to replicate the formula with with a COD license. And that's about it for my knowledge on that project.
I think that's all my questions. I guess the only thing I gotta ask is, with you being a COD fan, are you gonna pick up the newest game, Modern Warfare 2?
Yeah. I was I'm planning to do that, but I've just been so busy with all the other projects. I love the Call of Duty games. The more recent ones, I just can't keep up, because like there's like sliding. I guess I'm more of an old school player, so
same
it's a little different.
I'm campaigning zombies and multiplayer. I don't know. I've lost my touch.
Yeah, I know. It's like I go in. I used to be good back in the day. Like like rank first, second during like death matches, and these days I'm like, what the hell?
I know.
Can't keep up with these kids.
If you're not, not going hard or not practicing every day, you're not going to keep up with the kids online.
Yeah, exactly. And then like the verbal abuse. It's crazy. Like, come on, guys.
It's not worth it.
This is a game. No one has to be like, you don't have to be gangster all the time.
True.
Cool.